Hello, everyone. First of all, I really appreciate that you invited us and me and TFC to present our work, Yug and Richard, and here we go. So who are we? We are a strategic advisory practice that work within the domain of sustainable urban mobility. We have an amazing data lab team that works on the data management platform where we map all the transportation networks. We do a lot of analysis, modeling, simulation, and many other stuff. And we do that with the help of a root lab, which is an inbuilt or an in-house built application that we created from scratch to facilitate the process of data collection that is not really, or in our country or in the global north, global south, and in the African context, we're data poor. We live in data poor environments, and we need to kind of figure out ways to collect this kind of data. So we have Root Lab, which is our application, and our amazing tech team worked on it. And then we have the Urban Mobility Lab, which basically produce research, policy papers. And then, of course, we have maps. And this is basically what I do. We design transit maps, we design quality passenger information systems, and I'm going to introduce this more. So just to give a background on Transport for Cairo, as Yogesh was just telling us, transport is all circulated through word of mouth. We really have nothing that maps the whole system in Cairo. So this was an initiative, basically. We started as an initiative. We wanted to map the whole Greater Cairo network. And we started in 2015. Then we did our first workshop in 2016 where we co-organized a workshop with 12 students to design just 20 metro lines, just to get an idea on passenger information and design and so on. So we created a series of maps. This is just one of them, and those are the 20 bus lines that exist in Cairo. And what is amazing about this map is this only is a representation of only 2% of the network. So you can imagine how really hard it is to put everything on a map. As for us, the quality is not very good. But anyways, as for us, we worked with projects within Cairo and also beyond Cairo. So for the projects that are within Cairo, we worked with private operators, for example, bus operators and also RTP Dev, to design passenger information systems for the metro and the light rail systems. And also we worked beyond Cairo as several initiatives and also part of mapping projects in African contexts and cities where we wanted to design transit maps for cities such as Kampala, Lusaka, and also we did an initiative where we wanted to design a sustainable travel guide for COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. So just to give you an idea, how is the mass transit landscape really shaping up in Cairo? Because of the economic reforms that are happening recently and this need for attracting foreign investment, we kind of had this boom to initiate a lot of mass transit projects. So as you can see here, we only have the Metro Line 1 and 2, which were already existing and operating, and also we have the Metro Line 3 that is operated by RATP Dev and also is extending. It's still growing. So those are the operational lines, as well as the capital, the capital train. So just to give an understanding, this is the city center, this is Cairo, this is the Nile, and beyond the city is the suburbs. We call them new urban communities that are, as you see, they're very huge and they're low dense. And we're kind of building this whole system, which is composed of a high-speed rail, Metro Line 4, 5, 6, and the monorail east and west, the BRT system that circulates around the ring road. And this is all just to kind of connect the whole city towards the new administrative capital, which maybe a lot of you have heard about. Yesterday, Yo was telling us about how Japan was teaching students on how to read maps. And in our case, we don't have that in Cairo. Not because the education system is bad or anything, but because basically we just never had a transit map before in the whole city. And when we were asked about, or we were challenged to actually create a map by our RTP dev for the network that was going to kind of be experienced by thousands of people, that was a really, really, really huge challenge. And we had to do something. We had to really think it through. So as I was saying, for this initiative, the third metro line, they wanted to rebrand the metro and turning it into, or doing this rebranding, whole rebranding strategy and turning it into the Green Line 3 through passenger information, through also a lot of, design elements and so on and so forth. So this is what we were assigned to do. We wanted to create a whole passenger information system showing a network map, directional signage, a fares map, which shows in every station the fares that are being there, a smart car zone map, local maps, and also line maps. However, when we started understanding, or when we started seeing how to design an underground metro map, we started understanding that, okay, in order to design a map, we had to follow the schematic design of the network, first of all, and we had to kind of dissociate this network from the whole geography of the city. However, when we started working on this map, it was kind of challenging because we kind of were a bit afraid that people that never saw a transit map before, especially that all they had is this map, which was an open street base map with some lines that are just put over there. And we kind of had to reshape and redesign this whole map in order to fit their needs. So at that point, we decided to go for a more hybrid approach. Of course, the colors are not showing, but I think you can see it better on the map behind. So basically, the map is a schematic map that is overlaid on a hybrid design, showing all the main districts in the city, and also the districts are demarcated by the main street networks that are also highlighted with the street names, bordered by Ring Road, and also highlighted with the main natural feature that we have, which is the Nile. And we really wanted to keep this hybrid form overlaid on top of it because we wanted to keep the sense of orientation. We wanted to keep the familiarity, the sense of familiarity that people would have from the old map to this new map that we created. So basically, yeah, this is the old map that we had, and this is the new map that we created. And also, the map didn't just show the network, we also kind of showed the network that was going to open up, and also the connection to the light rail system, because RTP Dev also operated the light rail system. This is why it was essential to show the connection that it had with the future system, so bridging both the inner city and the outer city areas. And when when the project was launched, we were actually very surprised by the amount of I would say interaction and reaction that we got from the social media, and also it got put on TV presenters, and TV presenters get to talk about it, and also it got referenced in some conferences. So we were very happy with the amount of reaction that this map kind of pulled out, and basically this is what we wanted to do. If we go back to, for example, Vinelli's iconic map, where it was designed schematically at some point in 1972, but then people started really hating this map, and it only lasted for 7 years, where they had to revert it back to the geographic map. And this is because this basically doesn't really compare to our situation. We can't really compare us to New York for having, or for saying that we have a geographic map like them. But really, it's more about saying that there is a lot of people that really influence the design, and people really kind of have this really strong dependency on those designs and those passenger information systems, which we wanted to create with our maps. We wanted people to realize, we wanted to people realize that there is a passenger information system. And also, I know maybe map illiteracy here is a really harsh word to say when we say that we're map illiterate. No, we're not map illiterate. We can read a perfect map that has just 3 lines, which was really easy to design. But it's really about creating this connection between people and a passenger information system where they start to realize and they start to see and they start to depend on, just like the map of New York, where people just rejected it and they had to change it all over again for the people. So yeah, so that's our map. This wasn't our only map. I just wanted to show you another version of the map where we designed one for a bus transit network that showed for another bus operator that's called Moslat Mosr. So basically it shows the network of the metro lines in association with also the whole city. We have the Nile, we have the Ring Road, and also all the bus network that connects the outer city or the new urban communities to the inner cities as well. We also created a multimodal map, which isn't quite multimodal, I would say. It only kind of shows the main transit lines that are operating until now. So we have the network, we have the metro network map, and we have the LRT map. And you can actually see the contrast and how really the city, which was just this much, now exploded. And we have a huge, I would say, transit system that is initiated to kind of cover up for this map, for the city. So yeah, so this is one of the main issues, dealing with this kind of unfamiliarity, unawareness of passenger information, and really hope with this kind of initiation of the PIS systems that it kind of gives this connection or creates this connection. But also we had a really big issue when we tried to create those maps, is that we didn't have any access to data. As we were saying, we're data per country and we needed to do things ourselves. So for example, for creating, for example, something like a local map, we needed to map all the entrances and exits ourselves. We needed to map all the parking places, all the access points, whether they're underground, for example, tunnels or overground bridges. We had to do everything ourselves on site, of course, with the help of field researchers that we hire. But I think it's one of the really challenging points that, or just, this is just to, show a little bit of the problem, because it kind of goes with other things. And also to talk about the idea of not having data. So for example, when I was talking about this initiative that we wanted to create a sustainable transport guide for the mobility system in COP27. COP27 was hosted in Sharm el-Sheikh, which is a coastal city, and it's more like a resort city. They didn't really have a very complicated, sustainable network, but because the city was going to host a lot of delegates and attendees, we wanted to, or they wanted to at that time, to create this sustainable mobility system, which we really had a hard time getting data just to put it on the maps. We had a lot of stakeholder negotiations. We had to talk to a lot of, I would say, a lot of operators, a lot of people in order to get this kind of data. And honestly, the results were amazing. So those are the amount of operators that I'm talking about. We're talking about people that work with last mile solutions, people that work with bus operators and also electric cars and electric car stations and other operators. So we had to kind of consult all of those people, and they had to give us data, which was changing all the time until COP, because everything was changing. And this is where we had a map, a multimodal map that shows the bus lines that were initiated at that time and its connection to last mile solutions, or I would say, in this case, like areas where there would be bike sharing systems or scooter areas, or like georeferenced areas where there would be scooters and so on and so forth. We also created a cycling map, and in order to do this map, we had to go there to Sharm el-Sheikh twice. So we went there first before the COP27, like before the COP on 2 months, to kind of map the area and see the different road intersection areas. So for example, where does the bike lanes exist and how are they existing, whether they're shared, whether they are whether they're protected and so on. So we had to go there inside and do that. And after we did that exercise, we revisited Sharm el-Sheikh with our maps to kind of validate the data that we collected in order to have the guide ready. And we were surprised by the amount of development that happened just in a month with all the new bike lanes and all the infrastructure that was being built on spot. So it was a really big challenge with really working with no data and data that you had to acquire yourself and validate yourself on site. But in the end, we had a beautiful map that says, okay, we have those bike lanes, and if you want to go to Sharm el-Sheikh, we can depend on this map, basically. So the last thing about data, and this is, I think, the essence of what TFC works with, is mapping paratransits. And when we say paratransit is more of a reaction that comes with the lack of the institutional capacity to support or supply for formal bus systems. So people kind of self-organize, they have their own small-scale operations where they have their own vehicles and kind of drive or be part of this transportation network, as Yogos was perfectly explaining to us. And us as TFC, we're working mainly with mapping those systems, and also we kind of initiated in some of those projects to actually supply for transit maps for those systems. So for example, in Lusaka, which was in Zambia, we, after digitizing the database, their paratransit network, which is extensive, we offered also to create a transit map for the network. And of course, the transit map was very hectic because you have a lot of lines from those bus networks that were digitized. You have around 600 bus stops, because bus stops are, they're not really designed, they're virtual bus stops. And why are they virtual? Is because we kind of create them, or we pinpoint them from people just stopping around anywhere. So when there are clusters, or when people stop at areas in higher volumes, we just create this virtual bus stop for it. And also we have around 66 which are more formal bus stations. So in order to create a map that has all this kind of data, we had to go through a really rough, or a really extensive, I would say, filtration process to the data that we have. So for example, we had trips that had to be grouped to routes. So when the trip was going two-way, we consider that a route. When we have a duplicate routes, and that is that they have the same origins and destinations, or origins and destinations that are within 500-meter buffer, we exclude one of them. And also, if we have a parent route and a child route, we exclude all the child routes to have this map. So, oops. From the map that I just showed, or the Lusaka map, the very JIS map that I showed in the beginning, this is the transit map that we have, which shows the 136 trips that are designed only into 54 routes. And you'll also see the 630 bus stops that are also filtered down using the onboard surveys. So for example, if the onboards were quite significant in some areas, we only put those on the map, and ones that sound official. So for example, we can't just put on a barber shop on the map, it has to be more official. So this didn't really end there. Actually, it didn't start there. We had previously another map that was created for Kampala, and it shows around 600 routes, 600 trips that were also designed in 139 routes. But because the routes were a bit too extensive, we had to split those into two maps. So we have the intercity map, and also we have the intracity map. The intracity map shows the inner transit map coverage within the city, while the other one shows a more intercity connection where it connects to the other city. So we had to separate data into two separate maps in this case. And finally, this was actually maybe the first official map that we created after having the digital data that we started off in the beginning, 2016. So we started to design, or we took the initiative to design one map for one of the urban communities in Cairo, which is called the 6th of October. And we decided to map all the formal, the paratransit network within those in one map. So in order to do that, we also had to go for the solution where we had to also split the map into an intercity and outer city map. But honestly, the map is quite interesting because you see all the formal networks and all the Suzuki routes and all the box routes, and also you can see the connection where you have at certain interchanges where it changes with formal routes or other modes for the intercity map to get outside of 6th of October. And really we didn't know like how to design those maps. We had no idea how people reacted to those maps. So when we first did this map, which was our first formal / paratransit map in just in one place, we sat with people, we did this market research, and we kind of understood and interacted with drivers and people to know how this system or how the maps are really working. Are they good? Are they not good? And so on. And this kind of created the design base that we built on the Kampala and the Lusaka transit maps combined. So I would love to kind of end this a bit with the work that we also did with people on creating a wayfinding system for two of the big interchanges that we have in Egypt. One that interchanges with the light rail system and one that interchanges within the city. So unfortunately, I wasn't part of this project, but I say that I'm very proud of it because I think it's first of its kind that we create this wayfinding system. And this project basically was developed from a lot of research on wayfinding protocols and so on. So we had this very extensive data collection and analysis where we, of course, understood all the physical elements, the current design systems, the user experiences, and on all those kind of sort of stuff. And just to show you a little bit of the things that they did at that time, I think it's pretty cool to see the way that they analyzed also the user personas and how this kind of took shape in order to also understand their circulation vertically within the different interchange or the different modes, and how this also was done for people with disabilities, and how this kind of translated also with the different personas on the inner circulation within the stations. And of course, this created the beautiful signage system. Unfortunately, I can't show you like real-life photos because we still don't have this system implemented, but I would say that it was a very challenging and a very interesting experience because we never had this done in Cairo before. And we hope really for one day that we see it implemented on site. Yep, and that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mariam? Yes.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I was actually more curious about the paratransit maps of Lusaka and Kampala. From what I know, at least, about paratransit is, of course, most of the routes are informal, and sometimes it would also take a lot of effort to try to codify it. Like what we did in Indonesia is also we have a lot of those paratransit systems, and we tried to when we try to design maps for them, we kind of also have to help codify the system. Like it's just my curiosity, is the system in Lusaka and Kampala is already codified, like with route numbers or something, or it's just like the map, you don't really add route numbers on it?
I'm not sure about the Kampala system, but I think for Lusaka, the routes were established and they were like licensed and everything, but I think the problem was that they do change a lot. Like the way how people basically operate on those routes would change a lot, and I think it depends also on the demand. And I think it's quite challenging. Like working with paratransit is it's a very dynamic system, and probably this map could go like outdated in a really short time. But for our process of doing stuff, of course, I was introducing the Route Lab application that we had, and that Route Lab application, we use it to do several things. So for example, we do something that is called an identification survey. I'm not really a technical person, but I'll try to explain it. So, for example, we do something that is called an identification survey, where people take the buses and travel those buses, and they identify it on the application for the routes. And then they do a frequency survey just to see how frequent those buses go out from the stations, as to kind of give it this, kind of a rational scheduling scheme. And then they also do those onboard surveys where they kind of see where people board and alight, to also say that, okay, we might be having potential clusters or stops at certain areas. So it's kind of our way to, rationalize the system and kind of put it into a GTFS feed that maybe could be used or analyzed futuristically. But yeah. We had to actually work on the codes, like for the Lusaka map. If I'm talking purely about the map that we designed, we had to codify it ourselves. We had to, actually, I can go back to that to explain it a bit more. So for the map of Lusaka, they had a very centralized system. All the buses would start from 4 main interchange areas. And we did the coding system based on where they started from. For example, if they start from the city market, they would take the code C, and all the routes that would come from there would be codified as, for example, C1, C2, and so on. So we took those points as the main interchanges, and we kind of pulled out the codes from there to do our own codifying system and do our own, legend, basically, for those routes.
But it wasn't there previously then?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else? No? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.